Why don't Israel and Palestine get along? What is the root cause? What is its effect on the world? What is the solution? On October 7, 2023, the Palestinian group known as Hamas launched an attack on Israel, an attack that took place in the air, sea, and land. This militant group's attack appears to have been deliberately timed to coincide with the Jewish festival of Sukkot, to surprise the Israelis and catch them off guard. In response, Israel launched its operation against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Among the actions they took was cutting off electricity to Gaza, plunging the Palestinian city into darkness. But why did Hamas attack Israel? This video will try to lay out an easy to understand analysis of the underlying causes of the conflict in Israel and its importance to us. We'll dissect the issue, as it's a long-standing one that often makes the news. Hence, it can no longer be overlooked, as it may escalate and affect the entire world. At the end of the video, we'll also reveal critical details unknown to most people, explaining why Israel and Palestine should be friends. This information is based on science, making it intriguing to us. Hamas is a Palestinian militant group, a rival to Israel. For over 100 years, Palestinians and Israelis have been clashing and opposing each other in the region. To understand the crux of their conflict, it's essential to know a bit about the history of the situation. Long before the time of Christ, the Jews already lived in the land called Israel. Gradually, they were driven out of Israel due to various conquerors who came. For example, King Nebuchadnezzar, mentioned in the Bible, drove Jews out of the Israel region. Because of these events, the number of Jews in the area dwindled. Consequently, Jews scattered to different parts of the world, including Europe, creating what is known as the Jewish diaspora. Meanwhile, the number of Muslims in the Israel area increased when the Arabs arrived and took control of the land we now call Israel. The spread of Islam began there during that time, due to the efforts of the disciples of the Prophet Muhammad in the 7th century. This was part of the mission stated by the Prophet Muhammad to spread Islam worldwide. Hence, the number of Arabs and Muslims in the land now known as Israel kept increasing. Fast forward to the 19th century, many Jews wanted to return to their ancestral homeland, mainly due to persecution that was happening in Europe. Jews sought to create a state where Jews could live freely and practice their religion without fear of persecution. This is known as the Zionist movement. Thus, it appears that the root causes of the conflict between Palestine and Israel is about land, particularly the area of Jerusalem. This is because Jerusalem holds deep significance for both sides, and each one's history is one of the most controversial aspects of the conflict. For example, the Bible considers Jerusalem the holy city, not just because King David built his kingdom there in the Old Testament, but also because Jesus was crucified and resurrected there. On the other hand, Muslims believe that Jerusalem is the place where Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven and spoke to Allah. Therefore, it is also considered one of the holiest places in Islam. Aside from East Jerusalem, Palestinians also object to the occupation of the very land they currently inhabit, based on the original United Nations Partition Agreement in 1947. Currently, what is known as Palestinian territories consists of only two areas, Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Though these two territories appear separate, they are both parts of the areas that Palestinians desire to form an independent Palestinian state. As of now, Palestine is not recognized as a full member state by the United Nations, even though many countries recognize Palestine as a sovereign state with its own independence or self-governance. Complicating this is the existence of two Palestinian governments. The Palestinian Authority, or PA, controls the West Bank, while the Hamas group controls Gaza. However, even though the Palestinian Authority controls part of the West Bank, the entire territory is still considered by Israel to be an occupied territory. In fact, the Israel Defense Forces, or IDF, have a presence throughout the West Bank and have the authority to carry out military operations even in areas under the administration of the Palestinian Authority. There are also Israelis who have built their communities in the West Bank. Meanwhile, in the Gaza Strip, controlled by the Palestinian group Hamas, Israel still maintains considerable military and administrative control in many aspects. There are also blockades or barriers on land and sea in Gaza, so the movement of Palestinians in and out of Gaza is restricted. Israel justifies this due to security concerns, especially since Hamas is a militant group. The presence of Israeli communities and Israel's military in the West Bank, as well as the blockades in Gaza, are said to be sources of tension between Palestine and Israel. From Israel's perspective, their actions are legitimate defenses against potential attacks from neighboring Arab countries. According to Israel, before the war, there were many signs and threats from Arab countries that they would attack. Many Israelis also believe that the West Bank is theirs, based on history, as it is referred to as Judea in the Bible. From Palestine's perspective, the barricading of their territory is a form of oppression and punishment against them. For example, there are sea barriers that limit how far fishermen can go into the Mediterranean Sea. Israel also inspects goods entering Gaza, restricting or banning items that they think could be used for military purposes. However, medical supplies, food, and medicine are generally allowed, though there may be delays. Thus, Palestinians argue that their economy is declining due to restrictions on imports and exports, or the flow of goods. And although Jews have been in what is now Israel before the Arabs, generations of Arabs have been living there for centuries, and they have planted roots and hence have a right to the land they have cultivated. So now, why did Hamas attack Israel? According to Hamas's spokesperson, their attack is a response to the abuses against Palestinians over many decades. They want to stop the attacks on Gaza and protect their holy places. What is happening in the Middle East affects everyone around the world. For example, turmoil and tension in the region could affect oil prices and trade. Many expats also work or reside in the Middle East, including Israel. So, what is the solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict? The conflict between Israel and Palestine is one of the most complicated and long-standing problems in the world. There is no easy or simple answer as to how it can be resolved, but several proposals have been made over the decades. The primary idea and strategy put forth for the solution are stated in the UN Partition Plan of 1947. First is the two-state solution. One of the most popular solutions is to have two separate states within Israel, or the division of Israel into two, one state for Israel and one state for Palestine. According to this concept, the West Bank and the Gaza Strip would become part of the state of Palestine, while other areas would belong to Israel. This is already in the works, but has not been fully realized, as Israel controls some areas in the West Bank and has blockades in Gaza. Second is the international governance for Jerusalem. Due to the religious significance of Jerusalem to the three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, some have suggested that the city of Jerusalem should come under international governance. Now, to answer the question why Israel and Palestine shouldn't actually be at war, it is because they're essentially relatives or are genetically related. In fact, based on the analysis of their DNA by experts, it appears that they are closely related, as they share the same Canaanite lineage. Not only are they related in lineage and ancestry, but the Hebrew language of the Jews and the Arabic of the Palestinians are also related languages and share a common root. That is why Hebrew and Arabic have many similar words and sentence structure, as well as grammar. Also, in fact, Islam and Christianity and Judaism share the same belief in the concept of one God or monotheism. In fact, they all believe in Abraham, whom they consider their ancestor, or called Ibrahim in Muslim tradition. In fact, Jews believe they are descended from Isaac, Abraham's son, and the Muslims believe that the Arabs came from another son of Abraham, Ishmael. If this is true, Jews and Arabs are like siblings, but just with different mothers. Amidst all of this, these events show the importance of diplomacy, understanding, and dialogue between nations to find true peace and solution to problems.